We as Unitarian Universalists recognize the worth and dignity of every person. I invite you in this moment, centering on your own worth and value, to greet the people all around you. I am Bob Renjilian. I am the minister here of the Unitarian Universalists of Transylvania County. I welcome you here to be with us today. We are glad you are here, and we know we're going to have extra families around and others for our recognition service. So glad that you could be with us. I have a few announcements, and I think there are slides that go with some of these. The first one may not have a slide yet, but I'd just like to say the auction seems to have been a success. We'll learn more next week. Yeah? Exceeded our goal. And there are still items available. And so you will see some of those out in the lobby. You can do bidding sheets on things that are left over or find out more. And so we hope that, hey, if you walked in and said, "What auction? I didn't know about auction." You mean those things out in the lobby or something I could get? Yeah, they could be. Not the ones that have a name on it already, but the ones that haven't sold out you can get. And then I'm going to announce, and you know there's a slide for this Transylvania Choral Society concert this Thursday. Now, how many people in this room are involved in that concert on Thursday? 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, and a few people missing too, because yeah. So I think there's about a dozen at least of UU folks there. When a dozen UU show up someplace, they've taken over. So go to their concert, 7:30 on Thursday evening. Details are up there at the Porter Center. I hope you will go and enjoy. And Jim is raising his hand over here. Jim has tickets. He can get you in the door. So go see him today or go online later, but so for those of you who couldn't hear John, those of you online, he's saying that the Brevard College singers will also be on the program, and how wonderfully their spring concert had gone just earlier this month, and they'll be singing those pieces on this concert as well. We had at least a half dozen UU show up to hear that, and all were impressed. So please, music is wonderful. Thanks for being part of all of this. Thursday at 7:30 at the Porter Center. Yeah. So another announcement: budget hearings. Yay! We put a pretty dog on here, so you'd want to look at the slide. Okay, we have budget forums on Saturday, May 2nd at 2 p.m. in the afternoon. Wednesday, May 6th at 6 p.m. So if it's like, oh, but I work till 5, I can't come to a 2 o'clock one on Saturday. Fine, come on Wednesday after work to one of these. It's an interesting thing. Our board very carefully looks over what the finance committee has done and then passes it on to the congregation that can look it over as well. But sometimes on these budget hearings, we only have 1 or 2 people come up and ask the really tough questions. Well, what do you mean this? Or what is happening here? I know that's a trust in leadership, but one of the things I love as a Unitarian Universalist minister is to remind people we are not a cult. We don't just take your money and do something with it that you don't know what we're doing with it. You're the ones who approve the budget. You're given money for it, and you get to approve the budget. So those of you who are more cult-like in what you're doing, you wouldn't come to a budget hearing. But if you're curious, if you at all curious about what's going on, come on and show up. There were other things to announce because our congregation has lots of things going on. We send out an email. Hey, yeah, see, look at that. Wonderful Wednesday will come up, but I'm going to announce that another day. We have so many things like, is this Super Sunday or not? How do we do that? How do we pull that off after everything that we just did? But we're going to have soup today, too. I can't keep up with it all, but I hope you can. And we have those emails that go out every week to explain more. We will now, after the excitement of the dog on the screen and everything, we're going to now gently come into the spirit of worship, and John Austin will lead us there with his music.
The chalice lighting this morning will be words by Christian Smith and Alex Capon. We're going to read in unison, and the words are on your screen. We light this chalice for our children and youth, and for us, celebrating the flame of faith lit in each of us, honoring the light each of us bring into the world, rejoicing in the community we create together.
Our congregation has a tradition, as many Unitarian Universalist congregations have, of recognizing that we don't come in the doors with empty brains or empty hearts. We come in with things weighing down our thoughts or joy in our hearts. This is the time in the service in which we share those candles of joy and sorrow. And I see several have been submitted here, and I also had a few that were sent in electronically. Let's start with one, a candle for Dan Clem's son, Tim, who's in crisis and has been diagnosed with kidney failure. And a candle of joy from Tricia for Jovi getting into the college program of her choice. Yeah. We have a candle of love and gratitude for Randall and India as they celebrate 37 years this Wednesday. Happy anniversary. And from Janet Eckhoff, we ask as we light this candle to pray for her cousin David Brisky, and he has bladder cancer. And I ask that we light a candle for Janet Gardner, whose husband Phil died last week after a long time going downhill. I'll mention as well, I'm really glad to see Wayne and Barbie here. Can we light a candle for their health and well-being? And let's light a candle for all those things not yet shared, perhaps held in the hearts of those who are online, those who are in this room even, maybe over soup. We'll hear more from one another. We'll get to hear more of the joys and the sorrows, because this is indeed how we weave community. Let us pray in the light of these candles, O Spirit of love and life. May the glow of these candles remind us of the transitions of life and the griefs as we experience loss, for the care and worry of children, even adult children, who we would hate to see in the conditions that they are in or as they slide towards death. Spirit of love and life, we know that in our midst we have those who are finding new steps in life, for those who are going off to college, those who are finding new jobs and new houses, new places to be, new friends. For all of these candles and all that has gone unmentioned, we hold our prayers. Blessed be. Amen. Spirit of life, come unto me. Sing in my heart all the stirrings of compassion. Blow in the wind, rise in the sea. Move in the hand, giving life the shade of justice. Roots all me close, wings set me free. Spirit of life, come to me, come to me.
Good morning and welcome. I'm Janet Eckhoff, the worship associate for today. Our opening reading begins with a famous quote by the poet Mary Oliver, and then there's an adaptation written for this morning, especially as we honor our OWL graduates. Mary Oliver was a Pulitzer Prize-winning poet whose work reflects a deep attention to the natural world and to our inner life. She had a gift of asking simple questions, powerful, that invite us to live more fully and honestly. Mary wrote, "Tell me, what is it you plan to do with your one wild and precious life?" Each of us answers this question in our own way, not all at once, but over time. Sometimes we answer with confidence, and sometimes with uncertainty. Sometimes we answer it with bold choices, and sometimes simply by continuing on. Our young people completing their OWL journey have taken meaningful steps in understanding themselves, their bodies, their boundaries, their worth. They have practiced listening, speaking up, and respecting themselves and others. And they remind us that growing into ourselves is not something we finish, but it's something we practice again and again. So the question before us is not just for them, but also for each of us. What role do you play in your family, in this community, in the wider world? May we answer not with perfection, but with presence, not with certainty, but with courage. And may we be willing, again and again to keep becoming. Come, let us worship together.
Okay, good morning. My name's Kevin Lausch,
I'm Wendy Manor.
and we are the two facilitators for the Our Whole Lives program. And now is the time when we recognize the participants of the Our Whole Lives Sexuality Education Program. The Our Whole Lives program, also known as OWL, is important because honest, accurate information about sexuality changes lives. It dismantles stereotypes and assumptions, builds self-acceptance, fosters healthy relationships, improves decision-making, and has potential to save lives. OWL provides accurate, developmentally appropriate information about a range of sexual topics, including relationships, gender identity and expression, sexual orientation, sexual health, and cultural influences on sexuality. For several years, UUTC has offered this LGBTQ affirming national program for youth through our community to help the participants make informed and responsible decisions about relationships, sexual health, and behavior. The SAL group of 4th to 6th graders had 21 families participate, and we're so happy to have had the chance to work with so many wonderful youth. Not all the families could be here today, but we're glad for the ones that did.
Great. As I said before, I'm Wendy Manor. This was my first time teaching this class, and I really loved it. It was great. It was really cool to get to know these families and these kids. And I just want to thank you as a congregation. If you're someone that contributes financially so that we could offer scholarships for families that needed it for this program, thank you for offering the space. Thank you for being a community of people that value this kind of education and community building, not only for our youth, but for the parents that got support through this program too. For Kevin and I, this was really just life-changing for me. I don't know if you spend a lot of time with kids right now, but with all that's happening in our world and all that we're trying to balance and figure out, I really encourage you to find a way to spend time with young people. It's hope-giving, it's life-affirming, and it's just nice to hear those questions and that freshness that comes with spending time around young people. So thank you as a congregation for supporting this gift that OWL has been. Some of our OWL kids are here, and we want to recognize them now. So when I call your name, if you guys can come on up and join us. Kitra Kruger, Emery Marks, Aiden Darga, and Sebastian Watkins. I think that's all that's here today. But y'all, it was a big old great crowd, so we're glad for these guys to represent that class for sure. Let's give these guys a hand. These faces that you're seeing of, oh my gosh, I'm so humiliated to be here. Kevin and I saw a lot of those faces during our class, so you're getting the full OWL experience. But Kevin and I also saw hands in the air to offer insights, to ask really great questions, to be really present, to communicate with each other. You know, it's a long program, so we really got to build some cool community. And these guys are in relationship with each other in a really unique way. In the broader Brevard community, they now know that they are kids that are informed and have a good sense of self and a good understanding of how to build healthy relationships, how to value their own bodies, and their supports for each other as they continue that growing and learning in this community. Of course, none of this could have happened without some really, really great parents as well. Parents that support the OWL program are folks that really want their kids to have a good foundation when it comes to understanding their bodies, sexuality, what that means in relationship with other people. It was clear over and over again in this class that these kids do have that great foundation because parents are those primary educators of sexuality and healthy relationships in their kids' lives. This was totally secondary to that great foundation that these kids already have. Parents also worked really hard to make sure kids were here on time, that they were shuffling other scheduling. 8 weeks is a long time to commit to and get kids motivated and say, yes, you really are going to OWL today, even though you would prefer not to. And it was great to have that support. They showed up for parent meetings. They asked good questions themselves. They helped Kevin and I really know how to tailor this program to what the kids in this community really need. And so if you're a parent of an OWL participant, can you stand and let us clap for you too? So grateful to these guys for sure. Do you guys want to keep standing here a little longer and letting everybody look at you? No? Hang on. Just a second. Yeah, for sure.
Kevin's presenting a token of congratulations for the light that you'll bring into the world. I have a few words for you. I think I'm gonna stand over here, so I'm not blocking the camera view of you. And I'll say a few words here. Before you return your seats, I'd like to present a charge to you. Do you know what a charge is? It's like instructions. Go out and do this. All right, so here's the charge. Our congregation is proud to be of service to the wider community, and we offer an open-minded approach to religion and exploration of truth and meaning. And so I ask that you carry this mission forward with you. Statistically, most of your peers get inaccurate information, just wrong stuff, through incomplete school lessons, unvetted online sources, and misinformation from those who have not had a chance to get the good grounding that you got in the OWL class. So, I ask you to please speak up when you hear something that's wrong, misinformation. Advocate for healthy relationships. And carry from here a sense of generosity and open-mindedness. And if ever you find someone along your way who doesn't know that an open-minded place like this exists, you let them know that we're here, because sometimes that's life-saving for people. This can all make a transformative difference. And so we thank you for doing this charge that I give to you if you are willing. Now, before everyone is seated, I'll stand to this side so we can see Kevin and Wendy, because I recognize Kevin and Wendy for your many hours of preparation, willingness to lead, and caring commitment throughout all the months of this program. It was a high-level commitment. It took special training. It took extra planning sessions. It took a great deal of heart and enthusiasm. And so, thank you for all of you and who you are, and all that you have brought to this congregation, these participants, and the wider community. Thank you for being here and for helping to make this great program happen. Now you can return to your seats. Now, I heard Wendy say something a moment ago about thanks for giving money. You made OWL possible. For what? 20-something families to be served. Thank you for that. And so I'm going to ask you again for money. It's a privilege. It's a privilege to be asking to get support from all of you folks. Whatever we might be trying to do here, I love that we're willing to give and make it possible for this place to be right here on the map, to be right here in community, to be part of lives of people from, I don't know, 4th grade, as we just were seeing some, all the way up to, well, I won't name your ages in this room, but you know. We're here. We're here because of the generosity of people who helped form this congregation, who helped lead it. We also don't just give for our own selves. We give for the organizations you voted on out in the community, and each month we choose a different one. And we had a really good introduction to the Children's Center from Alice Hardy, and I'll read a little bit from the poster that's on the door. At the Children's Center, it says, "We believe every child deserves a safe, nurturing, and healthy home environment." And the Children's Center grew out of a local concern that abused children should be represented by an organization whose sole function is to advocate for these children. For over 25 years, the Children's Center has been advocating for abused and neglected children through emergency assistance, early intervention, parenting programs, school and teen programs, and providing a safe space. If you put money into the basket, it comes to UUTC. If you put money into the special envelope, it will go to the Children's Center. We will now gratefully receive the morning offering. Thank you, Alice. Thank you, Michael. What is given with love, we receive with joy. Thank you. So I want to ask a question. How many of you pray? You don't have to answer, just know in your mind. How many of you meditate? I will tell you that I have a really hard time meditating, and the only way that I could successfully meditate on my Buddhist retreats that I went to was, and 4th through 6th graders who are here, hear this. The only way I could meditate was to walk backwards. Otherwise, my mind was always busy with something else. In whatever way you need to enter into this time, if that means you need to stand up and start walking backwards, ground your feet on the ground, center your breathing and your bodies. This is the time for prayer and meditation. Spirit of love and life, who we are gathered here today, come into today knowing that there's a whole lot going on in the world with fires in the United States and the dryness, with shootings, with awful things happening all around us. And we come knowing that in this world, it is hard to center our minds. And yet, we know, Spirit of love and life, if we don't reconnect with what is important to us in our connection with our whole body, mind, and spirit, in being healthy in who we are, we will dry up and blow away like a fall leaf. Spirit of love and life, help us. Remind us in whatever instances of our life when we see love and joy around us, to celebrate that in at least one heartbeat of recognition. When we are awakened in what we read or hear or enjoy through music, awakened to great thoughts and feelings, may we use that moment to remind ourselves we aren't just automatons going through life. We are whole beings. Spirit of love and life, may we hold these prayers. May we hold the prayers of our hearts and the meditations of our minds now in this time of silence. pray in the names of all those known and unknown, remembered and forgotten. We pray in the names of all the helpers of humankind. Blessed be. Amen.
This was going to stay in its place until I got back up here. Sure enough, it did. Yeah. Good morning. The anthem that the choir is going to sing with a lot of feedback and echo and all that kind of stuff. There we go. The text of the anthem that we're going to sing will be on the screen. It's actually a hymn in our hymnal. It's one that we have done before. We don't know how to fix it. Give me some micro with echo. Yeah. The text is by Alicia Carpenter. I don't know anything about her, but she has come up with a hymn which encapsulates in my mind very much of what we in the UU congregation are all about. The words will be on the screen. You can see them as we sing them. And I need to tell you that the music, the notes are by, the tune is by certain Johann Hermann Schein. But Bach, of course, my hero Bach, took that melody and this is his harmonization of that melody. So text by Alicia Carpenter, tune by and harmonization by Johann Sebastian Bach. And I should tell you that this is a work in progress for our choir. And one thing is, I gave them the chord, but I don't know if they still have the notes. This is one of the things about not having a real pianist up here. I play the piano and I direct, so I have to get from the piano. Oh, Reverend Bob's going to put on another hat. Now, is that an E flat? I want an E flat. Yes, please. There we go.
May we this time
Deepa Iyer is a South Asian American writer, strategist, and lawyer. Her work is rooted in Asian American, South Asian, Muslim, and Arab communities, where she spent 15 years in policy advocacy and coalition building in the wake of the September 11th attacks and the ensuing backlash. Currently, Deepa leads projects on solidarity and social movements at the Building Movement Project, a national nonprofit organization that catalyzes social change through research, strategic partnerships, and resources for movements and nonprofits. She conducts workshops and trainings, uplifts narratives through the Solidarity is This podcast, and facilitates solidarity strategy for cohorts and networks. Previously, she's held positions at Race Forward, South Asian Americans Leading Together, the U.S. Department of Justice's Civil Rights Division, the Asian Pacific American Legal Resource Center, and the Asian American Justice Center. And I'll be reading from the book Social Change Now, which is the common read for Unitarian Universalists this year. Social Change Now, a guide for reflection and connection. We are confronting forces that diminish our capacity to form ecosystems. Here in the United States, we live in a culture that values individualism over community and the stance of, I got mine and I'm not concerned with yours. It's becoming even more prevalent at a time when external crises such as the pandemic and climate change should have been pulling us all together. Although social media falsely dangles the promise of connectedness, it also enables us to be bystanders and voyeurs as we scroll, like, or block content. Having fewer civic spaces and collective gathering places means that we don't have as many natural and easy ways to come together. We can see the effects of this disconnection all around us. More people are feeling isolated from each other. Social loneliness and diminished mental health have become pervasive, leading to higher suicide rates and fissures in society's fabric. Even in social change spaces, people tend to resort to silos or worry about the effects of being ostracized and excluded if they express certain viewpoints or don't have a fully fleshed out and pure political analysis of the issue. That's why nurturing the connections and commonalities between people is a vital strategy for our individual and collective capacity to survive and thrive. And so this leads me into this morning's sermon on what role do you play? And some of you got the handout as you came in, and if you didn't, ushers might still have one or two available. If you want to look on or look on with a friend, because I didn't kill enough trees to give them to all of you, but you should be able to look at it. And this framework that she's talking about, that's part of the study guide, I'm going to work from this microphone. I pause it when I'm singing in choir so that you don't have to hear my bass voice. There you go. So I'm going to lead you through a little bit about what she's trying to get us to think about. And I know we've been having a terrible time trying to see if we could have a book study group, especially since it's a workbook. You can't really go chapter by chapter if every other page it asks you to reflect on where things were 5 years ago in your life and where it is now. It's just, sometimes for some people it's a little too personal to get into that. But this part of it, to build an ecosystem, when she talks about ecosystem, she's not talking about Earth Day stuff, although Earth Day is part of it all. What she's talking about is a system in which we're all working together to change things to the way that our values say they should be, not the way we're feeling beat up about, not the way that's excluding others, not the way that is against the mission of this congregation, which talks about our spiritual growth and our work toward social justice, economic justice, and environmental justice. But how do we do that? What are the ways? And so you've got a handout that has all the mapping of the social change roles. You've got a way of seeing what we could be if we imagine ourselves as a piece of the whole of the work of an ecosystem. 10 social change roles: frontline responders, visionaries, builders, disruptors, caregivers, experimenters, weavers, storytellers, healers, and guides. And sometimes people can do more than one thing, and they can switch back and forth, and they can say, on this issue, I really feel like some kind of disruptor in this case. I really want to mess things up. Let me disrupt things. And then in other cases, you want to be a healer. You're not wanting to disrupt, you're wanting to be there and help folks listen and go deep and heal and feel better. So I'm not going to read them all because you're going to get to bring them home, but I am going to say a few things about this. How in the world we are, I don't know, more than the sum of our parts. We, as Unitarian Universalists, in our history have taken different roles. You know, Alicia Carpenter, in writing that piece that was up here, that you got to see the words that the choir was singing, she's a Unitarian Universalist. It may be her state now that grants the rights to continue using that hymn, number 300 in our hymn book. But we have had people who have decided time and again to just change the way things are. They're not good enough, and we need to change it. And I've mentioned some of the historical figures over time and the heroic things they've done, but I also like to know, like, how many of you have heard of Starhawk? And if you're into feminist thought and things that she's written, I use Starhawk's model of leadership in some of what I teach in the board, in our orientation, board orientation. I talk about spiders and worms. I talk about crows. I talk about dragons. And that's important to realize that the way in which we lead is not all one way. We have some leaders in our community who are crows. They get up on top of the telephone pole, and all they do is go, caw, 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 caw. And everybody looks up and says, what are they talking about? But that's what their role is, caw, 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 caw. And people say, yep, that's a leader. That's a leader. But they don't recognize that there's, there are people who are worms. You ever want to be a worm? You know what a worm does? A worm goes down underneath the ground and pushes up stinky stuff. And in some ways, people don't want to see the stinky stuff. They'd rather the ground just stayed the way it is and not have this little deposit of stinking earth come up on top. So you don't usually hear people saying, do you want to be a worm? You know, what happens to a worm? The early bird gets the worm. So that crow is going to come and get, and that happens in politics. If you're a crow and you see that a worm is down there bringing the stinky stuff up from underneath, you want to get that worm and eat it. And you don't want any more stinky stuff showing up because you want everybody to just be looking up into the sky. And you don't want that leadership. But if you don't have that, what happens when it rains? The water just rolls off and floods. You need the worms to aerate the soil so that things can grow. You need the stinky stuff brought up. And dragons. You know one place that dragons show up? They volunteer to be treasurers. Because dragons, I know everybody reads the stories of the heroes who slay the dragons, but they're really good leaders because they stand at the mouth of the cave and say, you better prove you have something in line with our mission for spending this treasure. Otherwise, I'm not letting you in the cave. You don't get the gold unless it is approved as part of what we're doing here. And they go and no, no, no. And you can't stay in that role forever. In fact, we cut short the treasurer role to 1 year because everybody wants to slay the dragon. But we want the money, but we want the money. And the dragon's like, no, no, no. And people say, we're not going to invite the dragon to our dinner. We're not going to talk to the dragon at coffee hour. We're awful with that kind of leader. You know, maybe a treasurer could make it a year or two being ostracized like that, but it's a great role because look, our treasure is here. Our treasure, our actual treasure, which is a treasurer is here to help meet our mission. So you're getting a sense of ecosystem, all right? And now that's not the author that we're studying today, but I love the way I could teach the board. Sometimes you got to be a dragon. Sometimes you got to be a worm. Sometimes you got to be spider. You know what a spider does? The spider feels every vibration in the web of the lives of the people of the congregation. And I was in a congregation that had a retired social worker who used a walker, and she would stroll her walker to the back near the door and sit there. And she would look at people and say, come over here. And notice that some people looked really down. What's going on in your life? And that spider would find out. And then that spider would come scurry over to me after the service and say, these are the families you need to reach out to as pastor. That's what a spider does. Knows everything in the web. All right, so sometimes, you know, you have to be a little everything. What would it be to be a disruptor? I just chose this as an example, all right? Unitarian Universalists are usually really good at building things. So you think, oh, Bob, you should have read the builder one. But I'm going to read the disruptor one because it talks about people of privilege and the way in which we can help a disruptor. Being a disruptor also means using our privileges in a service of a bigger vision. Indeed, people with race, class, and other forms of privilege should consider playing the role of a disruptor because they're less likely to face the dire consequences faced by those with lesser privilege. For example, you might remember how Bree Newsom Bass, a black woman involved with the movements for justice in the South, scaled a flagpole at the South Carolina State Capitol and removed a Confederate flag in 2015. That's 11 years ago. You might not have heard, however, about James Ian Tyson, a second activist who was arrested along with Miss Newsom Bass. Mr. Tyson, a white activist, stood guard on the ground during the direct action. As Miss Newsom Bass was climbing the metal flagpole, law enforcement threatened to use tasers on her, which could have led to her electrocution. Mr. Tyson held the metal flagpole himself and told the officers if they used tasers on Miss Newsom Bass, they would have to electrocute him as well. Mr. Tyson was aware that law enforcement would be less likely to use violence against him given his racial and gender privilege. He played the role of a disruptor in using his white privilege in a way to protect Miss Newsom Bass. So if you have privileges of any kind, reflect on how you could play the role of a disruptor to support the demands of communities seeking power and structural change. See how I lift out a piece of this, and you didn't sign up for the book discussion, but now you want to, right? You want to talk about that. There's a copy of the book on the countertop, and you can buy them either from the UUA or I got mine from Highland Books. But the idea here, as you look at the chart, is to realize that there are so many ways we can be part of building the ecosystem that our society tends to want to not have. If we are not working together, we are torn apart. We're feeling alone, or as she said in the reading before, in our silos. Just just all by ourselves, isolated. When we stand with each other, that's an ableist term. When we side with one another in what we do, then we can together feel like we're part of the kind of community that our mission talks about us being. Yeah, every once in a while, we do those things, and we should celebrate it. And sometimes it gets us in trouble. And sometimes we're using up a lot of our privilege in an era, in a time where that just seems like a lot to spend. And sometimes it seems like, I would just like to go crawl under my covers and not come out. But if this congregation had done that, we wouldn't have had nearly 24 4th through 6th graders learn something about sexuality and healthy relationships. And then in another year or so, they'll be in the 7th through 9th grade group, and they'll learn even more in depth. We've done that one for so many years. We've offered OWL so many years with just that group. Oh, you reached puberty. Okay. Now we'll explain things. Well, we started a little bit earlier this time. If we didn't own our own building, and that was part of a vision of people years ago in 2004 moving into this building. If we didn't own our own building, could we have been told, no, you can't teach that in our rental space? We might have been. There are spaces in this community in which people have been told, no, you can't hold that lecture here. And they end up here because we say we're open-minded and we'll let that be talked about here. Or no, that's not the religious stance that we have, so you can't be in our building. Well, we say, well, we want you to be in alignment with our mission, so no KKK, we're not letting you rent our space. But in general, we would like people to have a free and open exchange of ideas, scientifically based, reality based. Reality is a hard thing to hold on to right now, isn't it? We can publish books like this. We can talk about things because it is part of our history. It is part of our inheritance, and we need to use that inheritance wisely. All right. I don't know if you'll ever go and work on this workbook, but it was worth introducing to you so that you know that there are Unitarian Universalists all across our country trying to figure out, what is this person talking about? What is this about the different kinds of roles we could lead? I thought there was only one social justice role. Oh no, there's more than one. Thank you for listening. Thank you for listening to this introduction to a book and a topic. Thank you for letting me quote from a resource that very few people really want to spend time with, but probably should. Thank you for being part of an organization that opens its doors in ways that truly make a difference in society. And I'm going to invite you now to rise and sing our final hymn, We'll Build a Land, number 121. The words will be on the screen. We'll build a land where we bind up the broken. We'll build a land where the captives go free, where the oil of gladness dissolves all mourning. Oh, we'll build a promised land that can be peace like an ever-flowing stream. We'll build a land where we bring the good tidings to all the afflicted and all those who mourn, and we'll give them gardens instead of ashes. Oh, we'll build a land where peace is born. Come, build a land where sisters and brothers, anointed by God, may then create peace, where justice shall roll down like waters, and peace like an ever-flowing stream. We'll build a land building up ancient cities, raising up devastations from old, restoring ruins of generations. Oh, we'll build a land of people so bold. Come, build a land where sisters and brothers, anointed by God, may then create peace, where justice shall roll down like waters, and peace like an ever-flowing stream. Come, build a land where the mantles of praises resound from spirits once faint and once weak, where the notes of righteousness scattered people. Oh, come, build a land, my people we seek. Come, build a land where sisters and brothers, anointed by God, may then create peace, where justice shall roll down like waters, and peace like an ever-flowing stream. No matter who you are, you've got a role to play. No matter how small you seem, you are large in the life of someone very close to you, and can be even larger. When joined together, you form the ecosystem that makes a difference for the whole. May you go out into this world knowing your supreme worth of every human personality and the way in which you go about things. May you go out into this world not being drowned out, but instead finding your voice and bringing it to the world. Blessings on all of you. Go out with love. Return again to this place in joy.